Oh, hello there. Yes, well, good grief. It will be a new year soon. We've got all those great and 80th anniversaries coming up. Yeah, loads of them. There's Warsaw Uprising coming along and Liberation of Auschwitz as well, which is coming up. One of those big ones. Yeah. Various dignitaries will, of course, be attending, being the 80th anniversary, and various people won't be attending because they are worried they're going to be arrested, which isn't very amusing for those people that might be arrested. For the rest of us, it's an absolute hoot, of course. Not that the liberation of Auschwitz by Soviet forces in January 1945 was a particular hoot for anyone basically involved, but we can but look on with a certain amount of glee because it's been announced that Benjamin Netanyahu has decided, well, not to go, basically, because there's an arrest warrant from the ICC out for him, and the Poles may well be forced to do something about it if he shows up. And whereas other senior Israelis are not going as well, even though they haven't necessarily been named in court. But one had to smile at official Israeli spokesman saying this. And I quote, "The fact that the Israeli Prime Minister will not be able to land in Poland for the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz is the most Orwellian inverted reality," Coulter Walsh told Newsmax, adding that it should be troubled Jews around the world as part of a manifestation of a tsunami of anti-Semitism. Yes, having words with Newsmax, because it's one of those organisations that could be guaranteed not to ask awkward questions like, well, surely if there's an international arrest warrant out for him, it should be upheld. And the reason why the Poles, who are not particularly anti-Israeli or particularly anti-Benjamin Netanyahu, or indeed, I think these days particularly anti-Semitic. One can argue about that one way or another. But of course there's an arrest warrant as well out for Vladimir Putin. And the Poles wouldn't want to magically accept Russians turning up at Auschwitz when other people might do as well. So unfortunately for Benny Netanyahu, it ain't going to be the case. Oh dear. Still, never mind, eh? Yes, it must be awful for governments to try and think about what laws they're going to obey. Yes, I think we're going to see an awful lot of that over the next year or so. I mean, there are all those people out there that just sort of say that we in this country should just, disobey international law. And you have to say to yourself, that's a very, very good idea, because I can't see other countries deciding to retaliate like that at all. Yeah. I mean, it's like the Reform Party deciding that they're just going to return anyone to France, even if they might not have come from France. I mean, I'm sure the French won't do anything about that. And you can think of all those, international treaties and obligations that basically we demand that others uphold. But then, whenever it gets mildly difficult, then we just decide to throw them under a bus, don't we? A bit like people generally, yes. Anyway, I think that's going to be a hoot, personally. I know I shouldn't really say that about the 80th anniversary, etc., 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 but it will be. Awkward questions need to be asked about whether or not we actually do comply with international law. We either accept those decisions or we don't. And if we don't, that's absolutely fine. But then let's not whinge about human rights. One of the things that I'm supposed to teach in schools is the 5 British values, one of which is respect for law. And unfortunately, in some of my sociology classes in the future, if we decide to continue down this path, I may well have to ask questions of my students, because we like students to ask questions, don't we? Yes, the right ones, certainly. Anyway, but I might be forced to ask them about the notion of respecting the rule of law, which has to be taught in schools, but apparently not be applied to governments of places that we do or don't like, depending on whatever the particular month or year or decade it is. Yes. Anyway, do have a glorious Monday. I'm sure you will. Stay warm. It is still bleeding cold, so stay warm if you can.